guys, Wargamer Dad here, and welcome to the 79th episode of my Warhammer Conquest review series. Only one more episode to go after this, and unsurprisingly I'm reviewing issue 79. Let's get into this. First off, let's look at the plastics. That's always the bit we're most interested in. This is part 1 of 2 for the Magnavent Walkway, which I built one of these when they first came out because it was a nice piece of scenery for the shop I worked in / owned / whatever. It's pretty good. It's nice and thick. It's solid, and it goes together very easily. It's got some great detailing on it. Those aren't just holes. If you look in them, there's all kinds of pipes and stuff underneath. It's in my opinion really worth knowing. You don't have to paint all these things. If you have a decent spray color and a base color, you can really get a good look without having to go into the massive amount of detail that's actually on this model. The sides here, if you can see, they've got little clips. They just clip on the edges, but again, it's fairly solid. Obviously, it depends on how you build it. You have got things, just as you can see, pointing up, so there is a possibility of them getting knocked and damaged, so you do have to be careful with that. And these bits are probably the most important bit. You can see all these little holes here. These bits clip on to provide them with some structural integrity. So yeah, be careful where you use these bits. Work out how you want to put it together before you actually assemble it. And then you can work out how to put those bits on in such a way as provides you with the most structural strength. The plastic itself is very solidly built. It's the standard good quality plastic we expect. Reasonable amount of flex, so it's not brittle, which is nifty. And as I said last week, and I will almost certainly say again next week, where you've got these bits hanging down, it's almost certainly worth, well, it is definitely worth basing it with a thin bit of wood or whatever it is you base your scenery, whatever your preferred material is, to give it some structural strength, because that ladder there and these legs can snap, because not because they're in any way weak, it's just because they're very long, so you get a large amount of leverage. You knock it against the table, you can lose the ladder and things like that. I know some people have built it without the ladder, but frankly, you need, if you're going to have people climbing up and down it, the ladder is the point at which they climb up and down, so you kind of want it. But other than that, it is a fantastic piece of 2-tier scenery. It's it's actually very tall. They haven't got any models next to it for scale, but if you've been collecting the magazine, you can see here one of the cargo containers. I mean, that one's been tilted, but you can see the end of it, so you roughly get an idea of the scale of this. It's very tall, so you can get in and underneath it very easily. So it's a great piece of scenery because you can move the models around it with a fair amount of ease. However, obviously, the length of those legs and of the ladder is something to watch out for. But like I said, if you get a bit of wood, thin wood, or plywood or something like that, or thick plastic card or whatever it is you want to use, you can give it a bit of a solid base there, which will really protect it for you quite well. Obviously, same with any plastic model. It's a model made out of plastic that you start together with glue. It has a certain level of delicateness to it. Right, let's go into the magazine. Ian, our spiritual leader, signed this one with his little blurb. I've never gone through this blurb before because, frankly, all it does is what I'm doing. It gives you a brief review of what's in the issue. but it's pretty cool. Always worth reading if you if you want to know what's in the issue and you don't watch this. First page. Oh, Dr. Pepper, the American stuff they started doing in the shop. It's insane. I've no idea what the coronavirus is going to do to America when they already drink this. I think it's just going to turn and go, you guys are fucked, and walk home. It's amazing, but so bad for you. Right, first page is the Defilers, something that's also amazing and so bad for you. The blurb, there you go. Here it says, from the Death Guard line, something monstrous stirs. On piston-driven legs, a crab-like defiler clatters forward. Guns blazing and armoured claws crushing its unfortunate victims. The Defilers are fantastic. There's lots of different variants of them. They're like giant chaos crabs. They're like giant chaos crabs. They're made in the Demon Forges, which is an area of chaos that's been kind of staked out by demons and dark mechanicus and things like that. It's one of the few kind of like independent areas in the warp. Actually, it's quite interesting that they're so good at building these machines, and these machines are so good at tipping the battle that even the four big powers don't fuck with them, because if one power went in, they'd be able to hold off for a short period of time, but that would be enough to say, right, whoever comes and helps us, we're giving you exclusive rights. So every other chaos power would help them. They've kind of got a balance going on because they're really good at doing something. And it's all what you may wonder why it matters that they're really good at making big machines when you've got big demons. Demons have trouble materializing in the corporeal realm. By jamming a demon in a vehicle and possessing the vehicle, they can make things that are almost as good as demons, in some cases better, that can go into the corporeal realm without any problem. It's such a massive advantage that no Chaos God is willing to risk losing access to it. Oh, the stuff's crack. So, you know, the Chaos Forges are actually like an independent area / power almost within the realm of Chaos. It's actually pretty weird and impressive. It goes on to describe the Defilers as huge six-legged demon engines that use their gigantic metal power claws to rip apart infantry and snap tanks in half. To basically understand it, the demon engines are either Chaos's version of knights or Chaos's version of dreadnoughts, but expanded a lot. So they're really, really quite cool. They kind of heralded the start of Chaos being something different. For the longest time, Chaos was literally just Space Marines with spikes on. They had everything Space Marines had and nothing more, and in fact a few things less. But over time, GW, particularly in the last decade or so, have really taken Chaos and said, right, you've got 10,000 years of warping and changing, they're going to be different, and in addition to that, they weren't actually the same in the first place. So they've made Chaos Marines look much more like their own thing, as opposed to, you know, Space Marines with horns on. They've given them a lot of their own vehicles, a lot of their own weapons, a lot of their own cool stuff, and they've also made sure to not give them some of the new stuff that Space Marines will get. They don't have grab guns, they don't have a lot of this stuff, and it's not that they can't have it. It's not that a Space Marine couldn't nick the Space Wolf flyer and fly around in it. It's that they don't have it en masse. Like, you know, the Space Wolves have their own flyer, the Blood Angels and Dark Angels have their own flyers. Ultramarines have the basic Codex compliant guys have the grav guns. Space Marines have the Space Wolves have the frost weapons. Yeah, it's not that they couldn't have any of these. It's that they don't have the ability to manufacture these enough to have them widely available. You might have a Chaos Lord who used to be a Space Wolf and is equipped with all the Space Wolf weapons, but it's not going to be a common sight on the battlefield. It'll be a specific thing that you make. So, you know, but on the other hand, they do have demon engines and, you know, the Drakes and all kinds of weird stuff that the Space Marines don't. So now when you play Chaos Marines, you're not just playing Marines but mean. You're actually playing a unique force with its own flavour. And the Defilers and the Demon Engines were the first kind of part of this. it goes on. The files were first created by the Black Legion's Walksmith, but their secrets have since been shared with many of Abaddon Despoiler's fellow warlords, including Mortarion. The Death Guard maintain many Demon Engine manufactoriums, churning out a constant supply of Defilers. So these guys are also made by the Marines as well. It also points out that since the opening of the Great Rift, it has become easy to create such weapons, allowing the Death Guard to field huge packs of Defilers with ease. So there's a little variance there from what I've put in, but what I said there, but the other stuff's still relevant as far as I'm aware. It then goes to give you the different weapons of the Defiler. I've always been a bit dubious of that one. That one has always looked weird. You've got the battle cannon, which comes out of its chest, havoc launchers, repeater cannon, reaper auto cannons, demonic entity. The Defiler is powered by a demonic entity bound within. Once the demon is sealed inside the machine, it slowly warps and changes the form of its armor body to better suit its needs. Twin heavy flamers, Defiler claws, and the Defiler scourge. It's basically a giant whip. The claws are its two front legs. It has a central cannon and can have various different types of guns and flamethrowers attached. Next, we've got the Scourge. The Soul Grinders, which are another Demon Engine. I always thought this one's looked a bit weird. It's got some weird arms and it doesn't quite fit together. But then again, that is one of the cool things of it. It's got a similar sort of crab-like mobility to the Defilers. Perhaps the most terrifying Demon Engine to behold, as a large, greater demon, as well as as a well-armed battle tank, they're almost impossible to stop. So it's literally two. Soul Grinders often use the Spirit of Chaos, Spirit of a Chaos Space Marine or Demon attack. Their demonic nature allows them to appear where they are least expected. Their warped metal hulls and demonic aura make them invulnerable to all the most powerful guns. They're really, really mean. Very nasty and very brutal. As you see, there's a couple of them painted, looking really good. You've got one for Khorne and one for Zench, I'm guessing. They're really nasty, they're really vicious, and they're a right terror on the battlefield. Not really great at long-range weaponry, but a good combination. Soul Grinders are created with the Forge of Souls, which is the realm I was talking about. A strange one where the essences of destroyed demons are sent occasionally. Occasionally, the Soul Forge will offer a demon prince a chance to return to existence as a Soul Grinder. It will be freed from this mechanical prison in exchange for slaying a specific number of mortals. Unfortunately for the demons, the bargain rarely ends. No matter how many mortals it destroys, the Soul Forge price keeps rising. So you've got a typical, what they call Faustian deal there, where you're being told this is what you have to do, and then the deal changes and never quite works out. Then we've got Plague Hulks, which are a type of Soul Grinder, but a really mean one. When a demon of Nurgle accepts a Soul Forge's bargain, they are often reborn as a Plague Hulk. These demon engines are similar to Soul Grinders of Nurgle, but they are more bloated with plague and riddled with disease. Rather than belching warp flame, they're more spit forth jets of acidic plague. They often have a rot cannon fused to one giant arm and a giant plague sword to the other. Those who get too close to a Plague Hulk are likely to be overcome with a cloud of poison. So basically, the Soul Forge, which is where the where these demons come from, was what I was talking about earlier. It's kind of a combination of many things. It's kind of a combination of many things, and it produces a lot of really nasty demon engines. But it occupies a unique place in Chaos, so it's pretty cool. Haven't seen any of the Soul Forges in Bal, but according to this, they exist. I don't know if there's a model for the Plague Hulks. I don't know if there's a model for the Plague Hulk, or you just need to combine a Great Demon and Nurgle with the crab legs. But it's an awesome thing nonetheless. Yeah, you can see that one's kind of meant to be Zenshin. That one's kind of meant to be Khorne 8, and there's a Nurgle one in the background just there. but it's all pretty disgusting and pretty violent, which is what we like from Chaos. Next, we've got Chaos Gods, Slaanesh or Slaanesh or Slaanesh or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it minds. It's got no hands. Sorry, it's just got no hand. Don't know why. Slaanesh is the god of excess, often called the god of pleasure, but realistically, he's more or she, or he, she, or they. And it is worth noting, it isn't just sort of they, it's he, she, and they, depending on what it feels like at any given time. The greater demons particularly embody every aspect of any and every gender and anything in between anytime they want, depending on what they want to do at any given time. So that's a fairly unique thing. Most of the other Chaos Gods are thought of as one gender or the other, but realistically they're genderless. They call, Nurgle is often known as Father Nurgle, but he could just easily be Mother Nurgle. Zench, I'd imagine, changes its gender as often as it changes everything else, but realistically they don't really, because nothing they do is based in gender or sex, they don't really have a gender or sex. They kind of just defaulted to male, which is a bit sexist, really. Whereas Slaanesh specifically does have every gender that you can imagine, including alien genders that we can't imagine, because that forms part of what it's the Chaos God of. Born in the death throes of the Eldari Empire, Slaanesh is the god of excess. He's called that because he's the god of experiencing things. He's the god. He very much takes things to the extreme. So he's the god of experiencing sex in excess. He's the god of experiencing pleasure in excess. He's the god of experiencing pain in excess. Any experience he revels in, including the joy of combat, which is why him and Khorne often fight each other, because warriors that get lost in the joy of killing and murder lust can be considered often as much Slaanesh's as they are Khorne's, but there can be a fight over it. And there's an interesting story about the Eldari god of war in that one, in that Khorne believed that the bloody-handed god was his because he was a god of war, and Slaanesh believed the bloody-handed god was his because he was a god that revelled in the experiences and gave himself over entirely to the experiences of war, because the Eldar way was often to just give yourself over entirely to experiences, because they were effectively mortal and got bored. But yeah, anyway. Born in the death throes of the Eldari Empire, Slaanesh is the god of excess. He corrupts mortals by tapping into the desires of the arrogant and ambitious and promising them pleasure and perfection beyond their wildest dreams. Many have been lured to damnation by Slaanesh's temptation. That was well written. Slaanesh came into existence by feeding on the ambition and arrogance of the Eldari race. Eventually, with a terrible birth stream, the new god was born in the warp. That's not to say he's purely Eldari, but the Eldari did experience things to far greater extremes than humans, particularly because they were immortal, but also because they were incredibly potent psychic beings. And it's heavily the Eldari that fed the birth of Slaanesh. The resulting psychic implosion swallowed hundreds of worlds, breaching the barrier between reality and the warp and creating the Eye of Terror. The other gods came into birth over longer periods of time, through animalistic stuff and as species evolved. Eldari, the god of excess, war and violence can be a very primitive thing. Change happens even to animals, as does disease and depression. But the excess pleasures were more of a civilized thing. So he was born after all the other gods. He's even known as the Young Prince because he was born after all the other gods, and he's generally considered to be one of the weaker gods of chaos. because it's more civilized things that feed him rather than almost everything feeding him. But he's certainly not to be underestimated. Even as the young prince slash newest born god of chaos, he's holding his own against the three others perfectly well, except in the Age of Sigmar universe, but we won't go into that. Most of the unfortunate already had their souls consumed by the newly born god, and their gods were devoured as well, apart from a couple we later find out. Since his creation, Slaanesh has established himself as the equal of his three brothers, while the other chaos gods rarely welcome mortals to their realms. Slaanesh loves to tempt visitors to his domain. Yeah. He's basically a weird guy that turns up with a van that says candy. It's all a bit weird. Loads of other cool stuff to read. We've got the Infernal Raptures and the Fiends of Slaanesh there. The Raptors are the heralds of Slaanesh and use their enchanting music to tempt mortals to their side. Each herald plays a half-string lyre, a living instrument created from the body of a willing subject. By playing this instrument, they can help summon forth demons. You can see that's actually a bloke there, and you know, with that all, with his, he's been made into a harp or a lyre, as they call it. Although at that size, I do think it is a harp, but I'm not sure what the difference between a harp and a lyre is. That's lyre, Lyre, which is a type of instrument. And then you've got the Fiends of Slaanesh, whatever. Fiends and nightmares given shape, they emit a strange perfume that paralyzes their prey before moving forward to tear their victims apart. Only a mortal with great willpower has any hope of defeating a Fiend of Slaanesh. Back when GW created the Chaos Powers, they did a very similar thing they followed a pattern they knew had worked with the Space Marines, in that they came up with some sets of troops, and then they basically mirrored it for each of the 4 Chaos Powers. So you had some weird, weak, small creature. Nurglings had them. Well, you had some weird creature like Nurglings or Blue Horrors. You had a battle line troop, such as the Demonettes of Slaanesh, the Pink Horrors, or the Plague Bearers. You had a beast, such as the Beast of Nurgle, the Fiends of Slaanesh, the Juggernauts of Khorne, and the Flamers of Tzeentch. And then you had a cavalry troop, Demonettes, Bloodletters riding the Juggernauts, Demonettes riding the Fiends, Tzeentch guys riding the Discs of Tzeentch. There were some slight variants, and Nurgle didn't really get a cavalry troop, they got the Nurglings instead. And you did have small demons for Tzeentch, but really they came from the line troops. They were part of the line troops, so the Pink Horrors became the Blue Horrors. And recently they've added the Brimstone Horrors, which is pretty cool. But in general, each one had a thing, so each one had a kind of an animalistic thing, which was pretty cool. They then altered it slightly, but you will see that most of the Chaos Powers have some equivalency still. The core of it is still there, but they have altered it to give you cool things. Sorry, the Demonettes ride the Steeds of Slaanesh, which are weird anteater chicken hybrids. We've got some cool pictures. We've got some cool models there. You can see the Fiend of Slaanesh. One of the things I always think is cool, is worth noting, is you've got the 2 front legs there, and the 2 back legs are front legs facing backwards. So that's always been a cool thing. The Slaanesh stuff has always been animalistic. I've never been quite sure why. I've always assumed that it was because they were basing it on some of the weird nature gods and things like that. and they were going towards a weirder perversions. The original Keeper of Secrets, for example, had a cow head, you know, a big boob, crab claws, and a cow head, which I'm not entirely sure what was going through the mind of the GW sculptor when someone said create a demon based on excess and pleasure, and he went, right, I'm going to give it a cow head, crab claws, forearms, and a boob. And hooves. And you're sort of thinking, what do you do on the weekends, mate? But some of that's kept going. They've got razor sharp pincers. I mean, I always think the idea is that they're supposed to be warped and twisted. They've got a resemblance to sexy women and sexy men. Again, to cover the fact that they cover both and all genders, they've got what the demonettes have one boob and crab claws. Again, not sure where the crab claws came from. They can have hands, but often they don't. Seekers are demonettes who ride steed, and you've got the steed of Slanesh, which is a weird chicken thing with kind of an anteater proboscis. Again, not sure where those ideas came from for a demon of excess and pleasure. Yeah, whatever. It is really weird, but then again, I guess that's the idea. It's supposed to be weird beyond human. And then you've got the latest Keeper of Secrets, which to my mind is one of the best sculpts GW has ever released. You've got something of the cow bovine head there still. It comes with two heads. One's a bit more humanistic, and it's got two arms with giant long claws that can snip things, and two normal hands that can allow it to carry a sword and a shield or other weapons. It is it's an awesome weapon. It's an awesome sculpt. It looks really good. You can see it combining sort of male and female archetypes. It is weird, but it's meant to look weird. And to be honest, it's got a lot of stuff there which I don't know if you've seen the 300, the Spartan movie. Yeah, but it does kind of feel like they were influenced a bit by Xerxes out of that, which is completely ahistorical, by the way. Xerxes was not a 10-foot giant dressed in weird clothes or kinky clothes. Then you've got the contorted epitome, which is another weird Slaneshi thing, which is really cool and really weird. There's a lot of stuff on Slanesh. It's all worth reading. Certainly do it if you've got a strong stomach. Sorry, just mixing my paint. And not a strong stomach, no. Certainly it's worth reading if you like weird stuff and weird stuff doesn't weird you out. That's a fair way of putting it. If you've got a kid, it might be a bit PG-13. So read it first as an adult before you let your kid read it to make sure you're happy with all of it. It has been heavily sanitized recently. They've gotten rid of a lot of the weirder stuff, but they couldn't get rid of all of it. In the Age of Sigmar realm, Slanesh got captured and imprisoned, and the general consensus is that's because where Age of Sigmar was aimed more at a younger audience, GW were not sure how best to put the god of what was the god of sex and lust and kinkiness into the AOS world without creating something that was in contrary to their target audience and upsetting the parents. Stuff's amazing. Next, we've got the Landspeeder Storm, which is the Scout Landspeeder. It's another model you're not going to get in this, obviously, particularly with only one issue left. But it's basically an elongated Landspeeder that can carry a squad of scouts on it. The idea is it's a fast transport and fire support for the scouts, so it allows them to act as an advanced vanguard, moving around and fulfilling that side of the role as opposed to the sneaky attack side of the role. Like all land speeders, it has a certain level of delicacy about it. Like any of the fast attack vehicles, they sacrifice a certain level of defense and robustness in order to get more speed. And that's fair enough. You know, you can't have everything. See, it's got a cool picture there, and there's the bits in the back there. It's a bit open-topped, but that's cool. I'll read the blurb on it. It says, the Land Speeder Storm is an open-sided variant of the Land Speeder capable of carrying a small squad of scouts. Open-sided and elongated. It's pretty nifty. The Land Speeder Storm is operated by the Chapter's 10th Company, whereas used as a scouting vehicle as well as a transport for small units of Space Marine Scouts. The vehicle is equipped with sophisticated sensor array and engine baffles that keep it quiet, making the Land Speeder Storm excellent for stealth operations. Many further the Imperium has been defeated by a well-timed Land Speeder Storm strike from an unexpected direction, so that's pretty cool. Go through the basics. It's got these sort of armor rater things which are cool. I've yet to compare them to see how well they rate up, but they're nifty. The crew is 2 Space Marine Scouts, transport capacity of 5 Space Marine Scouts, armaments of a Cerberus launcher and a heavy bolter, and it has baffled engines, which I know means silenced engines, but when I read it like that, it just makes me think that they're confused about something. It's like, how does this work? You've got some nice pictures over there. It is one of my favourite vehicles, just because where they've elongated it, it looks, to my mind, much cooler and much more realistic. I did always feel that the Land Speeders were a bit small and looked a bit blocky, but with the elongated thing, it actually looks a bit more like it could actually fly, I always think. And I think if you wanted to operate a Land Speeder heavy unit, for example, army, for example, if you're playing Dark Angels and you wanted to use the Raven Wing, then a bunch of Land Speeder Storms attached to that with scouts would give the ability to put down some troops very quickly to hold units without bogging yourself down by having to take by wanting to take standard troops. I think in the Raven Wing, all your bikes and vehicles count, all your bikes and fast movers count as troops anyway, but at the same time, they're expensive, and do you really want them not to be moving all the time? So yeah, there's often, I think, for a Raven Wing commander, the choice of, does he want to basically use his bikes for like very expensive foot troops, or does he want to do something like take a bunch of Land Speeder Storms, and then you've got scouts which are well armed, reasonably armoured, and reasonably cheap that you can just drop off, and they will be foot troops and act like foot troops, but without having to spend the cost of using bikes and that to secure areas. I mean, there is also the argument that you can just slow the bikes down on the last turn, but again, yeah, that's yeah. You've also got Raven Guard here. They like heavy use of the Land Speeder Storms, so they're pretty cool. Next, we've got the how to build. Obviously, the pincer, the snipper safety bit, so you don't accidentally cut your arm off. It's showing you there, and there you can see the ways that you pop those bits in. You can pop them in. You pop them in. You can pop sideways, so they give you a bit of structural integrity. It's showing you how to glue the legs on. It's worth noting you don't have to build it exclusively that way. You can build in other options. You can build it so you can take it apart. There are variants of it, but that's the standard way of building it. Obviously, the legs don't come until next issue. More stuff. This is a reasonably complex build, so they're showing you how to do it all, but that's really really quite nifty. And again, as with a lot of the Mechanicum scenery, you can scavenge, break up, mix and match a lot of it to make your own more specific scenery. Next, we've got the 3 ways to play, which is one of the coolest ways. However you wish to play 40k, there is a way that suits you. Conquest is not the only way to play Warhammer 40k. The Warhammer Studio publishes many books that you can use to play your games. These books have 3 main ways to play: open play, narrative play, and matched play. Your Conquest missions are examples of narrative play as they tell a story. Often players Open play offers a very free gaming experience with less rules to use. Match play has additional rules to make sure that both players have balanced armies before games. Open play is basically do anything you like. Narrative play often involves both balanced and unbalanced ways of fighting, but they're done along a storyline. So we've seen bits there where we've seen bits in the missions where one side has had to achieve an objective and the other side has had to stop them, where you've been able to play unbalanced forces with less Primaris Marines and more Death Guards, simply because the Death Guard's job was harder and you only needed a few Marines to just delay them a few turns. We've also seen it the other way around. Narrative play, to my mind, allows for, ironically, the most options in play. Open play, we haven't got a narrative. You can do whatever you like, but it can be very unbalanced. If you're not careful, it can be not fun for one side. But it is the least rules heavy way of playing, and frankly, it's one of the funner ways to play. Narrative play, it balances up lack of forces with story. You know, so you've got twice as many forces as me, but all I have to do is get this one vehicle off the table edge, and I've won. You know, and matched play gives you less options, but is designed to give you a fairer game. With narrative play, you can get it wrong. They can get it wrong. Yes, you can find a way around it because it's very because it's designed to take into account unbalancedness, whereas match play is designed to be as fair as they can make it, and that's an important thing there. As fair as they can make it. If you get into playing this, which hopefully by episode 80 you are, otherwise there's a lot of money you spend on something you're not going to use. Sorry. Then you will see that GW are regularly changing rules. And you will hear the term nerfed a lot. People often complain that their armies get nerfed. Recently, I think it's the Iron Hands had an amazing set of skills, which made them nearly unbeatable. And GW went, well, being nearly unbeatable sucks for everybody else, so we're gonna change that. And GW do that to try and maintain balance, and also because they after years of saying we can make a balanced rule set, have accepted the fact they can't. Nobody can make a perfectly balanced rule set. Because if you have 1,000 people playtesting it, you've got 1 million people playing it, and 1 million people playing it will find ways to break it. And GW do not have 1,000 people playtesting it. To my knowledge, there are a few dozen people who play dozens and dozens of games, and they come up with what they think is balanced. And the moment it hits the shelves, they find that they were wrong, and somebody's found a way of taking their thing and completely breaking it. Because of that, GW are constantly amending it out and constantly rebalancing it to avoid any one group being unbeatable, because A, they want to sell a lot of models, not just one set, and B, they want the game to be as fun for everybody as they can. In addition to that, GW are always bringing out new weird and special rules for models and new weird and special models, and every now and then, no, not every now and then, every single time, there's an unforeseen consequence to that they go, sugar, we didn't mean it to be that bad, that they have to then reel in and go, sorry guys, we misjudged that, we're going to fix it. And that's a good thing. It's annoying because you learn how to use something and then it changes, but overall it is a good thing. Usually what happens is one group of people get upset and the rest of the people go, yay! And despite the fact you will notice, particularly if you're on either Facebook pages, people will complain that their guys got nerfed and this is unfair, we weren't that bad. The general consensus is that it's better this way than to have what we used to have, which was something would be broken and it wouldn't be till the next iteration of the game. We're on version 8 of the 40k rules, and sometimes you'd have to wait until the next codex came out, or sometimes even the next edition of the game came out to see that thing balanced. Because GW sort of go, well, we did it as best we can, and they didn't want to constantly be pestering rules, but they tried both ways and they found that constantly pestering rules is the better. Every year or so they come out and go, we're changing that, we're bringing this up, we're making that cheaper, and it balances out. Anyway, I'll get back to reading these bits. Open play. If you just want to get out all your models on the table and back your friends, open play is the game for you. Light on game balance, which is what the point I just made, but filled with fun. You'll have a blast no matter what models you use. Yep, you basically just smash things and have fun. Narrative play, there's more to that. I'm not reading it all because I don't want to ruin it for you. You should read it. Narrative play is based on the stories that make up the background of Warhammer 40k, either those in Warhammer 40k itself, Warhammer 40k books, or those you write yourself. And again, like I said, that's mostly what we've been doing. Narrative play has the most opportunity for fun and different games. You just have to try and balance out the differences with the rules or with the objectives, and that is very, very cool. Look back at what's happened in this, look in the GW books, and you'll see what's there. And then matched play. Matched play allows players to assemble battle-forged armies of equal strength to fight a balanced contest of strategy and skill. For the true test of generalship, there is no greater way to play. Heavy inverted commas around equal strength and balanced. But it is really the fairest way that they've been able to get it to play. It is as balanced as they can make it and we can make it. And if you find certain units are unbalanced, they do encourage to say, well, hang about, if you find this is a broken list, say to your mate, no, that's a broken list, mate, let's try something else. Getting your ass handed to you regularly is pointless. I used to play against a friend of mine called Matt. I had Space Wolves, he had Dark Angels. I had a 6th Ed Codex, which was really good. He hadn't had a Codex since 3rd Ed, and his guys weren't that great. And when they got the new Codex, the Space Wolf Codex was markedly better. So we would actually, between us, work things out to avoid it being a continual me smashing with better soldiers. And GW, again, their constant checking of rules has made this a lot better. It can be annoying that, the rules change when you just got used to playing it a certain way. But in general, it really is for the best. So this is the way, frankly, that most what you call pick-up games happen. Most games tend to be that you get randomly done. Tend to be, does anyone fancy a game? We're going to play 1,000 points. No knights, no heavy vehicles because I haven't got them. And then you go to it. When I say because I've got them, I mean the person who's saying this or playing say, well, I haven't got any nice heavy vehicles, so I don't want to sort of encounter those, so I can't deal with them. Yeah, but you'll usually do a match play where you say, right, I want a game roughly 1,000 points, let's go. And that's how it works. Next, we've got Terror from the Deep. Another quick story to set you up. A few extra bits and pieces. You've got the Endless Pox and Avenge the Fallen, which are 2 stratagems they've thrown in there. They came from the deep. Typhus and his Poxwalker horde have emerged from the Axis Sea to fall upon the Ultramarines' rear guard. Tam's Folly has already fallen, and now the gathered Death Guard forces threaten to break through the Ultramarine lines. The Ultramarines must halt them in their tracks. We've got lengthways deployment zones with 6 inches for the Death Guard, 12 for the Ultramarines. The armies, each player selects a battle-forged army. Death Guard armies will contain at least one of the following models. Typhus must contain the following models: Typhus and 20 Poxwalkers. You've got a maximum power rating of 60 and 3 command points, so even with Typhus and 20 Poxwalkers, you've still got a lot of variance there. The Space Marine player deploys the units first. Players then alternate deploying units until all units have been deployed. The Death Guard player takes first turn. Each objective controlled at the end of the game 2 victory points. A player controls an objective if they have more models within 3 inches of that objective than the enemy. 1 victory point for the enemy warlord slain. 1 victory point for each enemy unit eliminated, and the game lasts 5 battle rounds. It's worth noting that a lot of these 60 points each are the equivalent of a battle game. You get like power ratings or points. These games have been working on power ratings. Points is a little more in depth, and thus enables you to tweak that balance a little more. Play with whichever one you want, frankly. It looks like a fairly balanced battle, and I think you're going to have fun with this one. We haven't played End on much yet. We haven't played Sides on much yet, but it is actually the more common way of playing. When you get a 6x4 board, you tend to array your armies along the long edge and charge at each other, just because it allows you to get more on the board. Again, advertising for Warhammer stores, by all means do go in them. And the final Conquest. We've reached almost the end, guys. Next week will be the last of my reviews. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed it, then I've enjoyed it. It's been a good thing. So the battle for Corvon 2 ends. On this one, you've got your final Conquest, the Magna Event Walkway Part 2, and the Battle for Corvo on 2 ends. So you'll finally have a winner for your narrative campaign. And there you can see it's got the rest of the bits. So we've got some corner units and some legs to come in, and that'll be the last episode. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you want to keep watching reviews, I am reviewing with my daughter the Mortal Realms magazine. So if you like the reviews, maybe go onto there. If not, if you're 40k only, I'm going to be doing some unboxings and stuff as time goes by, and then I'm going to be considering what I can do and what I can do time wise. As always, being a dad tends to come first and tends to occupy a lot of my time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week for the very last video, where we will laugh and cry and think about sad times. After that, I am planning to do a short video on, I'm going to go through all the magazines and reorganize them, and then I'm going to sort of do a short video on how I've organized them and how I think you can organize them and what dross you can strip out so that you can keep them, and so on and so forth. See you guys next week. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.